You may start.
Si move. Move.
Good
Hinang
afternoon,
audio ni
everyone.
Bless.
Narinig ako?
Mahina move.
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. Bless, asa na Bless?
Kalma lang mo.
Isog ba?
Asa na yung title?
Sige lang,
Ikaw ka
natagit
hindi
na.
na, oy.
So, for this afternoon, we will present the post-lab of laboratory activity number 8, which is entitled the percentage yield. And next, please. For the objectives, number 1, to solve the percentage yield and balance the equation. Number 2, to define conservation mass by Lavoisier. Number 3, to identify why percentage yield theoretically must not be greater than 100%. Next, please. For the materials needed for this activity are the beaker, sodium bicarbonate, hydrochloric acid, oven, or Bunsen burner. Next, for the procedure, first is to weigh a clean dry 250 ml beaker. Next, add approximately 2.5 grams of sodium bicarbonate to the beaker. Next is to accurately weigh the beaker and sodium bicarbonate. So after weighing the two, slowly add the HCl solution, which is about 10 to 15 ml, and then observe. Next is when the reaction has apparently stopped, add a few more ml of the HCl solution to be sure all the sodium bicarbonate has reacted. And last is evaporate the solution to recover the product, sodium chloride, using the oven or the burner. So in the burner, you must heat slowly and carefully to avoid sputtering. Heat in a hood. Be careful not to breathe the fumes.
So for the results and observations, so the mass of an empty beaker is 77.42 grams. The mass of beaker plus and sodium bicarb is 79.92. Gi-add lang natin yung given na mass ng bicarb, sodium bicarb at saka yung beaker. So nakuha natin yung 79.92. Yung mass naman ng beaker tapos yung sodium chloride natin, gi-add lang natin yung given na actual yield natin na 1.45 grams at saka yung weight ng beaker na 77.42 kaya naging 79.87 grams siya. So ito yung balance chemical equation natin. So sodium bicarb plus hydrochloric acid yields to sodium chloride plus H2O plus carbon dioxide. So balance na yan sila. So dito sa solving ng theoretical yield, pwede ginamit natin yung stoichiometry. So step by step lang namin. So yung weight of sodium bicarb na 2.5 grams, gi-times natin sa molecular weight na 84 grams, kaya nakuha natin yung 0.029761904 moles of sodium bicarb. And then, yung answer natin doon, mole ratio natin siya. So, yung mole ratio is yung nandoon sa balance equation natin. So, same pa rin yung answer kasi tig 1, isa-isa lang man yun sila. So, same pa rin yung answer natin na 0.029761904 moles pero NaCl na. Kasi NaCl man yung hanapin natin, no? So, yung moles ng NaCl, i-times natin sa molecular weight ng NaCl din para makuha natin ang grams niya, ang weight niya in grams. So, yung 0.029761904 moles of NaCl, i-times natin sa 58 grams na NaCl, i-divide natin sa 1 mole of NaCl para ma-cancel out ang mole ng NaCl at saka yung matira na lang ang grams. So, ang answer natin is 1.726190476 grams of NaCl. Or 1.73 grams kung in 2 decimal places natin siya. Ito yung sa percentage yield natin. So, yung weight ng NaCl na na-recovered, i-times natin sa 1 mole ng NaCl, i-divide natin sa molecular weight of NaCl. So, ang makuha natin na mole ng NaCl is 0.0225 moles. Rest nanda ito. Kanina yung percent yield natin, guys. So, yung weight ng NaCl natin, yung na-recover, i-divide natin siya. So, computed theoretical yield natin na 1.726190476 grams. I-times natin sa 100, then makuha tayo ng 84%.
So, next ilong madungog ko, saba magod diri.
Madunggan ka.
Okay
So,
lang.
for the question number 1.
Robot na Hazel.
So,
Choppy, choppy. Wala. Wala ni si Hazel. May problem ang PLDT karon.
Yes, ma'am.
Ang PLDT no, wala man okay man ang globe.
Always man, ma'am.
So,
Dili day na bago.
Bago mo.
sige.
Pati
So-
globe mo.
Okay, sa diri sa amo wa man may problema.
Sige, for the question number 1, why can the percentage yield theoretically not be greater than 100%? So, use the law of conservation mass. So, we all know that conservation mass, the mass which is cannot neither be created nor destroyed. So, it can never be greater than 100% because it conflicts the law of conservation of matter, which is mass is neither created nor destroyed in ordinary or chemical physical changes. If your percentage yield theoretically be greater than 100%, then there's a possibility that you make an error or mistakes during the experiment, which may mga impurities na nag-appear or there's miscalculation. So for question number 2 is, why is it necessary to add sufficient hydrochloric acid to ensure the complete reaction of NaHCO3. So, necessary siya to ensure the complete reaction of NaHCO3 because we need to neutralize the chemical reaction when we are going to mix the basic and acid substance. So, ang ating acid substance is the HCl, then ang ating basic na substance is NaHCO3. So, pag i-mix natin yung two substances, neutralize sila. So, substances so that they form, which is salt, water, and carbon dioxide. So, for our conclusion, the actual yield is the amount of the product obtained from the chemical reaction. So, yung gihalo na natin yung HCl tsaka NaHCO3, ang actually, yun yung chemical reaction. Tapos yung, yung na-produce nun is yung actual yield. So, ang actual yield natin is 1.45 grams according to our experiment. Then, the theoretical yield is the amount of the product obtained from the stoichiometric or balanced equation. So, ang ating theoretical yield is 1.73 grams. What we have pag during experiment is the actual yield. So, that is why paano tayo, hindi tayo, kumbaga, pag na-experiment tayo, hindi tayo nagkakakuha ng theoretical yield. Actual yield talaga yung nakukuha natin. Nag-solve tayo for theoretical yield and for the percentage yield. So using the limiting reactant to determine the product. So the percentage yield is the percent ratio of the actual yield to theoretical yield. So yung katulad sa sinabi ni Claire kanina, na yung percentage yield is equals to 84%, which is, yung formula is actual yield over theoretical yield. So, usually, percent yield is lower than 100% because the actual yield is often less than the theoretical yield. So, the reasons for this is that incomplete or competing reactions and loss of sample during the recovery. So, may nawawala. So, if the percent yield is greater than 100%, this means that more sample was recovered from the reaction than predicted. So, this happens when our reactions occur that also form the product. It can also be the source of error if the excess is due to incomplete removal of water or other impurities from the sample. So, bakit naglabas? May nakita kayong 30 days best price? Wala, no?
Wala, bless.
Wala. Okay. May nag-pop up kasi.
May naga-float lang, bless. No block.
May hindi mo siya mag-alis ba? Alam guys.
Plus, inom sa tatubig.
Bakit kay yellow? Hindi ko na kung makatilawan.
May advertisement sa imong screen, Blessel?
Yes, ma'am. Kita?
Wala, black lang.
Wala, bless. Minsan na.
May nag-pop up. Hindi ko
May tinatago si Blessy ba? Ano yan? Bless, mamaya na yung porn mo, ha?
Uy!
So, naka-record ba yato?
Sumama kayo sa bill, ha?
Sumuka.
So, nakikita naman natin dito, walang porn, okay, ha? Tapos yun, bakit ayaw niya matanggal? Bahala ka dyan, ayaw niya matanggal. So yun, oh my gosh, di ba klaro? So yung actual yield natin is 1.45 grams, tapos yung theoretical yield is 73 grams, tapos yung percentage yield that is 84 grams. So, sabi dito na dapat hindi daw yung ating percentage yield hindi taas sa 100%. So, check siya, 84% siya. Pagdating sa, sinabi dito na because the actual, bakit di siya makita? Makita siya, ma'am?
Yeah.
Anong ginapakita mo?
Ano yung gisulat?
Natabunan, nasa likod na siya, Bless.
I-move. Pwede naman
May
na
question
i-move
daw si
ang-
Isobel.
Ay, wag, ISO.
Tapusin mo, nakita kay may question ako.
Uy, ikaw na,
Bukas pa
Claire.
yan matapos.
Ikaw na,
Ay,
Claire.
sige, bukas na lang. Pending na lang yung question ko.
Napamantay time. Hindi nito mahuman, napamantay time ugma before the
Ang bukas pa
exam.
si Blessing matapos mag-explain.
Explain naman na niya ang conclusion. Nalibog na kung anong
So, yun, di ba,
nag-explain.
di ba yung actual yield na is often less than the theoretical yield. So, sabi dito na actual yield is dapat less than theoretical yield. So, check 1.45 grams. Mas mababa siya kaysa sa theoretical yield. So, check siya. So, yun lang.
Okay na, pwede na ako mag-question.
Ma'am, magawan ka doon ni Bless ng roll.
Sige, kung tanong sa time, anong kalunod.
Ileso na niya pati conclusion, ma'am.
Huwag ka na daw mag-lesson, ma'am.
Siya na lang mag-lesson, ma'am. Sige, Blas. So, ikaw ang nag-lesson. Ako'y question.
Sige, ay
Uy! Uy, Claire, ko bahala, Claire.
Gipasahan ka, Claire. Hala.
I'm out of the picture.
Go leader, go leader. Whew.
Di ba kay...
Ikaw man na nag-present, Bless. Ikaw man na.
Kaya
The question is directed to Blessel May.
Uy!
Yeah.
No man is an island, di ba?
Monday ka, woman.
Exempt karon, Bless. Di na applicable na siging karon.
Uy, strong and independent woman ba ka, Blessing?
Gani.
Ingon.
Sige na. Sige na kay question.
Sige, go.
Di ba ang theoretical, ang actual yield is dapat dili magsobra sa 100.
Sa
Di ba
theoretical
dapat-
yield, dapat lower siya.
What I mean, di ba ang percent yield dapat di siya magsobra sa 100%? What if less than 100% siya? Tapos di ba law of conservation of matter or law of conservation of mass, ginasabi kay
Cannot be created or destroyed.
matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Tapos ang ato ang yield is 84%. Na-destroy ang 16%. Asa na adto? Nga di ba based on law of conservation of matter, dapat walay ma-create, walay ma-destroy. Giunsa nimong 16% bless? Gibutang nimo sa flowers?
Uy, Isabel.
Sige, you try to answer that before ako.
Try ako, ma'am, ha?
O sige, Claire.
Kasi may nabasa ako na pwede natin ma-connect theoretical yield sa percentage yield ba yan? Yeah, something. Ay, sa law of conservation of mass as long as balance ang equation. Diba sa equation na pinakita natin, balance man sila, walang nawala, walang nadagdag. So, pwede pa rin ma-connect pa rin natin yung law of conservation dyan. I don't know kung tama yan.
Gipang
Tapos-
exchange naman.
Connected yun na siya. Supposedly, since balance ato ang equation, katong ato ang na-compute na theoretical yield na 1.72 something grams, dapat mauto siya ang ato ang makuha during the experiment. Kasi according to the law of conservation of mass, dapat kung unsa kadaghan imuhang reactant, mao pud imuhang makuha sa product. Ang question ni Isobel, nganong 84% lang ato ang theoretical yield. 'Di ba dapat 1.72 something pero sa actual ang nakuha 1.45 grams lang. Ang iyang pangutana asa daw naadto ang uban?
Asa na atong uman?
Ano sa kang reason? Nga naman. What do you think?
Napunta siya sa ibang product, ma'am.
Ano sa product?
Yang, ma'am, H2O at saka carbon dioxide. Charot lang.
Ano mapunta ang salt sa H2O and carbon dioxide?
Sodium chloride.
Charot lang gani.
Gitunaw na ang asin.
Okay, so ano ni siya ha? Ato ang percentage yield yun, ang ideal 100% yun na. Kung unsa dapat kasi we are following the law of conservation of mass. Kung muingon ka og na kay 1 mole of the reactant, dapat ang makuha nimo sa product 1 mole pod. For example, 1 mole ni sodium ang present sa reactant. Pag abot sa product, dapat 1 mole pod na siya ni sodium. Mao na siya ang ideal. Mao siya gitawag og theoretical. Pero sa actual, we are doing experiment, nagasunod ta og procedure, and then sa actual, based sa given, wala siya nasunod ang law of conservation of mass nga nag-ingon na matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Kay ang atuang na-compute na theoretical yield 1.729 something. Nya ang nakuha 1.45 lang. Ang pwede nato nga explanation ana naalang pud sa atuang procedure. So wala man ta kabalo kung paano gi-perform ang experiment why wala nato nakuha ang tama nga yield nganong naay kulang. So pwede na siya because number 1 sa weighing natay problema basin nag-ingon ta nga 2.5 grams ang atoang gi-weigh pero we have a problem sa weighing dili dai to 2.5 grams ang tama na weight sa sodium bicarb nga gigamit. That is why pag abot sa product nakulang siya. That's number 1. Number 2, pwede pod na sa reaction magud na atay ginatawag og limiting reagent and excess reagent. Now, sa experiment, as you can see, the sodium bicarb can be called the limiting reagent kasi fix ang iyahang amount. Ingon siya 2.5 grams lang. Kanang 2.5 grams, maulang na siya ang available na molecules for reaction. Pag maubos ng 2.5 grams, wala na'y reaction pa nga mahitabo. Bisan pag magdugang ka og hydrochloric acid. So siya ang limiting reagent, si hydrochloric acid ang ginatawag nato og excess reagent. Kay nagsige man tagdugang og hydrochloric acid. So number 2 nga reason na nganong wala nato nakuha ang 100% na percentage yield is basin wala na complete ang reaction. Basin dapat naapay reaction nga mahitabo pero ang ato ang supposedly excess na reagent wala nato nadugang. Di ba question number 2, ngano daw kailangan mag-add og sufficient na hydrochloric acid? That is to complete the reaction. That is to make sure na all the molecules in the 2.5 grams of sodium bicarb will react with the hydrochloric acid to form the products na na-predict nato. So basin ing ato number 2. And then number 3, remember that sa actual experiment natay mga ginahimo na mga transferring of chemicals, daghan ta ginabuhat na transfer. So it may be because dili efficient ang ato ang pag-transfer sa chemicals. So naay mga mabili, naay ma-spill. So pwede to siya nganong nakulang ang ato ang na-yield na sodium chloride. And then number 4, though sa evaporation manggod, actually nag-evaporate yun na siya tanan ang uban nga water and carbon dioxide. So maybe during the process sa pag dry na ay something wrong with the procedure, that is why na bawasan na sad ang atoang product. So mao na siya nga 1.45 grams na lang ang nabilin. Okay? Questions pa? Did I answer your question, Isobel? Or do you want to add something?
Okay na, ma'am.
Okay, so those are the reasons. Pero class, always remember na dili gid na siya dapat mo sobra sa 100%. Kasi wala dapat kay ma-create din ha na product. Now, for example, naghimo tag experiment ya pag-compute to sa percentage yield ni sobra siya og 100%. Actually last year, I cannot remember when was that, basta na ay batch na nag-perform aning percentage yield, and then when they computed for the percentage yield, ang uban sa ilahan ni abot og 110%. So what went wrong? Sa law of conservation of mass, dili na siya pwede kasi wala dapat kay ma-add din ha na additional. Nakita na mo ang something wrong sa ilang procedure during the drying. So dili efficient ang drying. Supposedly si water mag-evaporate siya totally, but wala nila napa-evaporate totally. So na-appeal siya dito og way. Okay? Or it may be because na ay mga contamination. So along the procedure, along the way, na ay mga contamination nga na-add. That is why sa actual experiment na ay instances na mosobra og 100% ang percentage yield. Okay? So ano siya ha? So this one is a very important experiment kasi as pharmacist, you have to know na unsa ang mga reactions that will give you products. For example, we have chemicals na kulang sa laboratory. So since kabaluman ka nga if mag-react sila, mag-yield sila og product, then you have you know how to do the procedure, and then maka-predict ka kung unsa kadaghan nga product ang imuhang mabuhat. So magkaroon ka og bagong chemicals na ikaw mismo ang nag-produce, and then before the procedure you can predict unsa kadaghan ang imuhang ma-yield. Though dili man siya always 100%, most of the time dili na siya 100%, pero at least you have the what you call that, kanang prediction nimo nga ingana kadaghan imong ma-yield kung mogamit ka og certain amount sa imuhang reactant. So kani siya, this is still an application of the stoichiometry. Kailangan gihapon ninyo dinhi ang pag-convert sa moles to grams and grams to moles. And you need also the pattern for the stoichiometric calculation para sa imuhang theoretical yield. Basta always remember the theoretical yield is computed using stoichiometric calculations. Kasi when you say theoretical, supposedly dapat mauna siya imuhang makuha based sa balanced equation. So you don't start computing if dili balanced ang imuhang equation. And then ang actual yield mo na siya ang yield nato during the actual experiment. Okay? So we will continue tomorrow. I'll be answering questions if ever you have questions tomorrow, and then katong sa titration before the exam ako atong answeran. So please prepare for the exam. Mga 80% sa ato ang exam kay calculations. Wala mo'y quiz ugma sa PICOL. Di na lang mag-quiz ugma sa PICOL so that you can concentrate sa exam sa QC.